Hello, everyone, and welcome to Perfect Practice. This is Sachin Patel. Today, I'm really excited because I get to spend time with a dear colleague of mine, Dan Trussler. Dan is a registered osteopath and functional medicine practitioner who practices about an hour east of London in the UK in a town called Essex. So Dan's an amazing practitioner, and what I wanted to do is I wanted to help him help other people by interviewing him and understanding a little bit more about what drives him, what he's passionate about, how he serves his clients and his community so that they can get the outstanding results that they have been getting, and so that he can serve and help more people. So Dan, thanks for being here today.
Thanks for having me on the show, Sachin.
Well, it's such a pleasure. I'd love for people to learn a little bit more about you. So why don't we start by how you got into, osteopathic as a profession, and then how you transferred or why you actually added functional medicine as part of your tool belt.
Sure. Yeah. So I was studying at university and I was studying sports science. I had a real interest in sport, and that's been a key feature of my whole career. But at that time, I was really suffering with my health. My skin on my hands in particular was particularly bad. I'd have weeping skin on my hands, and I'd just be itching forever overnight. So this was diagnosed as eczema in my childhood, and it never even got better. It carried on into my late teens and early 20s, and it really started affecting my health and my life, because I would compare myself to others around me, and I'd have to be going to bed and wear these white cotton gloves to stop myself from scratching in the nighttime. And I'd be getting lots of jokes about how I was like Michael Jackson, putting these gloves on at night amongst my university friends. It wasn't the coolest thing, and it really was, affecting how I perceived myself at that time. And it wasn't until I was given advice to maybe look into my diet that it was the first time that I made a connection between what I was eating and my digestive health and my skin health on my hands. So fast forward a couple of years, and I decided that I wanted to learn more about the human body. I got fascinated into how diet can affect things. So I applied to study osteopathic school. So I did it's a 4-year medical degree. Basically, it covers everything that a doctor would study, minus the what I call the poisoning part, the drugs part. And it gave me a real good understanding of anatomy, physiology, and how the body works. I then went on to study with a very experienced osteopath in the UK, Howard Beardmore, who had been helping people using lifestyle principles alongside manual therapy of osteopathy, and really taught me the deeper philosophy. The background goes to a guy called A.T. Still, who was in Kirksville. And it was initially started as an alternative for treating infectious disease, and how the manipulation of the body was actually getting much better results than the drugs that were being used at the time. So that really fascinated me, and I'd moved my interest beyond sports at this time to the health of myself and family and others. However, I still had these nagging digestive issues. I'd be the one that I'd be at a party and really have to just hold in gas and win the whole time. So, I can resonate with the clients that I work with now that have digestive distress, because I've been there. I've been the one who's given himself stomach pain because of having to hold in wind the whole time. And it wasn't until I came across functional medicine and actually had some testing done that I realized there was a little bit more to it. And I work with the practitioner, Dr. Siegler, who works in your team, and that's really helped me over the last 3 or 4 years now. Get to the point now I have no digestive distress, and my hands have been free of eczema for a long time. So that's brought me now to want to share that with others and to help them take ownership of their health and realize that there is a solution out there for them.
I love the vulnerability. Thank you for sharing that. Actually, that's one of the first times I'm hearing some of those components of the story as well. So I know some of these things aren't easy to share, but it's powerful that your clients know this, because then they understand that you know what they're going through. A lot of times when people see specialists, they're trying to describe, the sun to a blind person, right? Who hasn't experienced or doesn't know how traumatizing or how difficult some of these scenarios might be. And so that's a really powerful share. Thank you for sharing that. And I hope anyone who's watching this, understands that you want to find a practitioner and you want to find somebody who understands you, who gets you, because when they understand what your challenges are, then they don't minimize them. They don't say, oh, that's normal, right? They don't say, oh, that'll go away, or it's not a big deal. It is a big deal when it's happening to you. So I really appreciate, you sharing that. And then, it's great to always, help people, right? So I'm glad that Dr. Siegler was able to help you and serve you and kind of show you a different way. And now you're doing that for your community. And so I see a little sign there behind you. It looks like you got a workshop coming up. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. I love having members of the community come into the clinic, and we're holding a workshop this Sunday, and we're committed to at least one workshop a month this year to help members of the community come in and hear how they can improve their digestive health. So yeah, this Sunday it's overcoming the root causes of IBS, reflux, and other digestive conditions.
Awesome. So now that we have an idea of what you're passionate about and why you're passionate about it, I'd love to hear some case studies. So there must be some remarkable case studies that kind of jump out and stick out at you that, that are kind of etched in your heart and in your mind. Tell us about some of your successful case studies.
Sure. Yeah. Well, a lady just come in this week who I've been working with for 5 months now, and she's had some major breakthroughs during that time. So let's start with her. She's a lady in her 50s who works as a carer. So she's looking after other people as well. But she'd had indigestion and reflux since her early teens. And she had an operation actually to release part of her diaphragm, which is the big muscle that goes underneath the rib cage and forms part of the sphincter that closes off the food tube between the esophagus and the stomach. And this was aiming to improve her indigestion, but she still had daily indigestion since then. Added to that, she started to have secondary conditions, including irritable bladder. She'd be up 6 times a night, having to go to the toilet, as well as recurrent bladder infections that started to occur 2 years ago. She had a migraine each month until we started working together. So she was, she was in a pretty tough place, and the medical profession hadn't been able to offer her any solutions that have worked for her. So she was referred to our clinic in September last year, and we ran some testing on her, and we found out some things that she wasn't aware of. We found out that she had a stomach infection that had probably been there a long time. And from her history, we also found out that she wasn't eating in a way that was allowing her nervous system to process her food going through her digestive system. So she'd often eat sitting in front of the TV, off her lap. So often these simple lifestyle changes that we can identify with people can go a long way alongside the lab testing that we run with them. So fast forward on 5 months, and now we've completely overcome her indigestion. That's no longer a problem, although just over Christmas recently she said she had a little recurrence once, but she knew exactly why. So we've increased her awareness of her own body. She no longer has any migraines. She's lost over 1 stone in weight, which was a nice byproduct of the process that we've been through together. And now she's only up once in the evening rather than 6 times a night. It's one time to pass urine in the night. So she's really, really happy, but we've still got a little bit more to do. She wants to be even better, which is another thing of people going on this journey. They realize that the sky's the limit and they can really take things on further.
Yeah, I love what you said there about helping her raise awareness, because that is such a valuable skill set that people may take for granted, right? Now that she knows why she's not feeling well or what she can do to get back on the right track, that's a very, very powerful skill and not something to be underestimated. And it's also important that you helped her kind of unlock this understanding that, life is like this, this flower that just keeps on blooming. And, it's this 1,000-petal lotus, so to speak, that continues to bloom and bloom and bloom, and it just never ends. And to give somebody that level of hope and that level of encouragement that wants them to reach for the stars is such a powerful tool as well. So I appreciate you sharing some of that. That's pretty awesome. So what did, you certainly created results for her, certainly moved her in the right direction. What would you say you did differently? I know you kind of mentioned it, but let's piece it together. So what would you say is different about somebody coming in to see you and somebody going to see their conventional practitioner? Or even what's the difference between you and seeing another functional medicine practitioner? Because I know you do things a little bit differently.
Sure. I think our intake process is the most comprehensive that most people have come across. We get a lot of remarks on how in depth our intake form is. We want to take every aspect of their life into consideration because we just don't want to miss anything. We find ourselves very much as detectives, and we want to find what aspect of their life is potentially holding them back, because we have that philosophy that the body will tend towards health. It's a naturally restoring homeostatic mechanism, but there must be something that's obstructing the body's natural tendency towards health. So we really become a detective in those initial stages. The other thing I think that makes a real difference is our lifestyle coaching and the importance that we place on people making changes to their lifestyle and supporting them through this. It's very easy, and I have other people come from other practitioners who have been given a big list of supplements and never actually really been taught how to eat, for example, how to best digest a meal, and even little tips on how to be in the best position to go to the toilet. Things like that can make a real difference in people's health and are often overlooked by other practitioners. On a more conventional setting, she'd been down the route of taking medication, but this lady was someone who realized that drugs weren't the answer for her. She wanted a more long-term solution. She wasn't someone who wanted to take medications long-term.
Yeah. So the focus is always long-term, right? How do we create not just an immediate improvement, because you can certainly do that when people have more awareness and they start unlocking and up-leveling their lifestyle strategy, but it's the long-term results. And I feel like a lot of practitioners might have a tendency to maybe be too short-term focused. And yes, you can get short-term results using medications. You can even get short-term results using herbs and supplements, but the long-term results, really the skills that people develop working with you, are going to be a long-term investment in their overall health and wellness. And one thing I always remind people is that if we can help people become 1% healthier or live 1% longer, then that's a 270 days that they're adding to their lives. If we can help them live 5% healthier and thus hopefully 5% longer, we're adding 4 years to the average person's life. So it doesn't have to be like super dramatic changes and complete overhauls of what people are doing. What you're getting people to do is to take something that they're already doing and do it with consciousness and awareness so that they can do it just a little bit better, or in some cases, significantly better. I mean, I can certainly think of somebody watching television, sitting in front of the TV, maybe not eating their food or not being present. I mean, we can up-level that person's digestion significantly by bringing them into that moment and getting them to choose, chew, chill, and cherish, right? There's all these things that they can do to up-level specific behavior. So I love that you're not really, adding a lot to their plate, no pun intended. What you're doing is you're layering on top strategy to leverage their time much more effectively. And, in the long run, that saves people money as well. And I know that, both of us have a lot of value for what we do, but we also have a lot of value for people's time and money. And we want healthcare to be affordable and accessible to as many people as possible. And the most affordable form of healthcare is when you empower the patient or the client to become their own best health advocate, right? You're there coaching them and supporting them, but really ultimately the responsibility is on them. You can't chew their food for them, right? I know that working with people, you don't just work with them as a clinician, but you work with them as a coach as well. So tell us a little bit more about that. How do you incorporate that into your practice to get the awesome outcomes that you do?
Yeah, the coaching aspect is very, very important, because some people struggle to make some of the lifestyle changes initially, and everybody needs a coach. Everybody needs to be held accountable. I like to think back to our childhood, and for a lot of people, that's the most successful time in their lives, because schooling generally makes people be held accountable, and sometimes that's what we look to get away from as we go into adulthood. We don't want somebody looking over us and making sure that we're getting our homework done on time and things, but actually that's what can make the real difference, and I want to coach for that reason, because I want to be held accountable, and I want someone who's trodden those steps before me to make my path easier. And I think that's what people value. Me having been on my health journey, I can quicken the journey from where they are at the moment to where they want to be. So coaching is an important part of our process.
Awesome. And then tell me a little bit more about who is a good fit to work with you. Like, how do you identify that? Because people who are listening to this, there's probably millions of people that you can serve. And I would imagine that there's a subset of people of those millions that tend to get better results than others. So I know that outcomes are very important to you. How do you determine who's going to get great results?
So we like to work with people who are committed, and we really like working with people that already have some indication that they believe that a more natural approach is the solution that they want. A lot of people they would have done some research on nutrition. Maybe they would already start to have made some changes to their lifestyle, but are not quite able to piece all the pieces of the puzzle together. So we really like working with people that are willing to learn. We place a high value on growth and learning. All of our staff members here are encouraged to always be learning new skills, to be going on courses. I will travel all around the world to learn from the best people in the industry, to make sure that my knowledge and understanding and experience is at the highest level. And that's what we expect from our patients, is for them to be on that path of learning and growing.
Yeah, that commitment from people is super vital. And I love what you said, that you're committed to learning and growing and traveling the world. I know we've been to events together, and you're a very keen learner and somebody who's constantly looking to up-level their skills so they can, better serve their community and, provide, not just the latest research, but also using ancient wisdom and time-tested and proven methodologies, because I want to always think about this, and this is very important. And I know that this is your line of thought as well, is that if it worked 1,000 years ago, it'll work 1,000 years from now. And if, something as simple as chewing your food or sitting in the right position, like the squatty potty you talked about, or the right position when you go to the bathroom, I mean, that's a game changer for some people. And it's so simple. And, the rest of the world goes to the bathroom with this pelvic position. And all we have to do, we can still use the bathroom the way we do, but we just have to add a little stool under our feet, and it changes everything. So I love that you're incorporating, proven methodology that, is relevant or has been relevant for thousands of years, but then combining that with also the latest research and the latest, information that's coming out, so that you can solve modern day problems, right? So, some of our challenges that we face today didn't exist 1,000 years ago. So we need modern day solutions, and it's great that you're upkeeping with that. One of those modern day solutions is lab testing. So why don't we spend a couple of minutes and talk a little bit about that? Maybe why is the lab testing you do different than perhaps the lab testing somebody might get from their traditional practitioner?
Yeah, sure. We like to test rather than guess when it comes to our patients' health. So we get information from different tests, but we like to educate our patients on what that testing shows. It's not testing for the sake of getting a label or a diagnosis, which will be the case with with going to their GP here in the UK. And even then, the amount of people that go to and have a blood test and are told that everything's normal, everything's okay. But that's just because, they're looking for something out of range so that they can give a label or a diagnosis to it. We want to intervene much, much sooner than that, so that the ranges that we will use for something like a blood test will be much more narrower. We're looking for an optimal range and signs that there are things moving in the wrong direction before something goes way into the wrong direction and could then be given a diagnosis or a label. We're going to intervene much sooner than that. So we're looking at more of a functional range, if you like, and that could be with vitamin deficiencies. It could be with mineral deficiencies. It could be that the immune system is starting to show signs of going out of balance. And, all this stuff can really help the journey that we take our patients on and shorten that journey than perhaps if they saw a practitioner who was just going to go on their symptoms alone and just make guesses on therapeutic approaches based on symptoms alone.
Yeah, it's kind of like trying to chop the top of an iceberg off, right? So if you chop off the top of the iceberg, it's going to seem like it's gone for a moment, and then the rest of the iceberg is going to come to the surface. And, that's not a sustainable strategy. So I love that, getting the right testing done when it's appropriate, when the client's, done some of the work to make the right interventions and doing the right things. I'm sure it saves them time, which consequently also saves them money. And I know that's one of your core values is making care affordable. And lab testing allows you to focus your time, energy, and effort. And if you do need to spend money on supplements, or you do need to have any type of interventions, your energy is focused. It's not kind of scattered and all over the place. And remember, it's the magnifying glass can burn down the whole forest only if it's focused correctly. Right? Or it can start a fire to keep us warm, whatever that might be, but it has to be focused. And so I love that you take a focused approach with the intention to get to the root cause resolution. And one of the byproducts of that is saving time and money, which, as much as people have, it's something that they'd rather not part with, right? I don't hear too many people saying, man, I wish I had less money, or I wish I had less time. So this brings people or it gives people more of that back, which I think the world needs now more than ever. And of course, it lowers their stress levels, gets them more parasympathetic, and that gets them better results as well. So I love how you've put this all together. I love your story. I love, how you're sharing this with your community. I love that you're making an effort to get your message out into the world and share online. I know you've got in-person programs that you offer. I know you've got some online work that you're doing as well. So I'd love to, send people a little bit more information and, make sure that they know exactly how to get in touch with a practitioner like yourself. So why don't you tell us how people can get a hold of you?
Yeah, sure. So our website is Ancestral Health. So www.ancestralhealth.co.uk. And there's, I've got a video series on there. So a 10-step video series on how someone can improve their digestive health in 10 days. We also have a good following on Facebook. The page is linked to a group that people are welcome to come and join. And we have lots of like-minded individuals sharing lots of valuable information and really giving that community feel online. And as you say, we are going to be working with people in 2020 in an online format.
I love it. Well, brother, thank you so much. Thank you for your passion. Thank you for your contribution to our profession and to your community, and for making the world a better place, but always starting with yourself first, and leading through leadership and showing us all, practitioners, but also patients, what's possible when, you put your heart into something and the right intention into something. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Sachin. It's been great fun, and I like learning from you and the fantastic intention that you have with all the work that you do too.
Thank you, brother. Have an amazing rest of your day. And thank you everyone for tuning in. I hope you got a sense of how passionate Dan is about his work. I hope that if you're passionate about your health, that you reach out to him and connect with him, because you can see his heart's in the right place, his head's in the right place, and he's going to help you get your health in the right place. Thank you once again. Have an amazing, amazing rest of your day.